And speaking of alchemy, if you look up there, you'll see Urbi et Orbi, the city, the people, and the world, the sphere. They're all up there, right? It's a golden sphere that has a cross on it. We've discussed this in symbolism as representing Excalibur, actually, right? The sword in the stone. The stone is the philosopher's stone, and the sword actually represents the power of time. It's the control of your own time. Why? Because the cross doesn't mean the crucifixion of Christ. The cross means solstices and equinoxes, right? It's a very ancient symbol that speaks about the balance between the different parts of time, which is what we're trying to activate with Olinada, right? Solstices and equinoxes. So, in this mission, in this task, Christianity martyred the idea of time through the suffering of the breaking of Jesus's heart. The heart of Jesus, that symbolism, that was pierced, right, on the cross. It's the same as many times when I'm receiving messages, beings from another dimension say, someone broke my heart, someone broke the rhythm of time. The heart, the constant beating, represents time. And the beating of those four chambers, the four chambers of the heart, where the blood enters, passes through and leaves, those four chambers of the heart represent the cross, right? It's like the city of Jerusalem as well, which has 4 quarters. They are the 4 spaces of the heart, where blood enters and leaves. And it's and the heartbeat, the pulse of the heart, represents the tick-tock of those four aspects. Solstice, equinox, solstice, equinox, right? So light comes in and goes out, light comes in and goes out, light comes in and goes out. That is what the heart of time constantly means. And for someone to have broken the heart of time, in this case, Jesus embodied in the figure of time, for someone to have broken the heart of time means that we are all out of alignment with the time that does not belong to us. That is the story. We are outside the solstices, outside the equinoxes, outside the full and new moons. We are outside all of that coherence or harmony of the heart. So the symbolism of the crucifixion of time is a constant reminder that we have to repair our heart, our time, our balance with the philo, in order to reach Sophia, wisdom. And there, to build that bridge between the heart and the mind, or the heart and the spirit, which is built through the balance of time, right? Between what I think, what I feel, and what I do. That is the symbolism of that cross above. And then we have the philosopher's stone, which is the sphere, the orb. The philosopher's stone, which is the ability to turn the whole world, everything that is physical, into gold. And what does this represent? It represents that a person who is out of balance cannot manifest gold in their life, cannot manifest realities. For the alchemist, it's not a matter of making gold and getting rich. For the alchemist, it's about being gold, about becoming the atom of gold, about shining on one's own. In other words, a person cannot perform the alchemy of turning into gold if they haven't gone through the process of turning their spirit into gold. That is the symbolism of the philosopher's stone. The philosopher's stone is not something physical that you have to find to turn, lead into gold. The philosopher's stone is becoming the stone, becoming the gold. And that is the magic that Jesus performed with Peter. Jesus wasn't actually called Jesus. I don't know what his real name was. Nobody knows. Because Jesus is Yeshua, which is what they called him. He was the Savior. The Messiah had come. Instead of saying Messiah, or they said Yeshua. So that's where the name Jesus comes from. But nobody knows what his real name was. And Peter's name was actually Shimon, right? So Shimon, who was a person more like he doubted, he didn't have a firm faith. He was kind of doubting the teacher, right? Low self-esteem, I would add. So what does it mean? What does it signify? That through the word, through the alchemy of speech, what Yeshua did was turn him into Peter. Peter means a stone, in Latin, Pietrus. So that stone is the symbol of the philosopher's stone. In other words, it takes all those weaknesses that Shimon had endured and turns them into gold through Peter, the stone. The stone is buried on the hill of the Vatican. Down there, and by being buried, it forms the entire golden foundation of all Christianity in the world. And today, it is what it is, right? That is to say, together they managed to show what alchemy is, what it means to be an alchemist. The transformation of a code through the word. When we change our name, when we rearrange our time, it's the ability to modify realities through the word, through the concept. I change my perception and I change reality. These 14 obelisks will refer, not in a Christian sense, but they refer to the 14 parts of Osiris, right? They are 14 Egyptian obelisks. Therefore, 14 fragments of Osiris, who in Egyptian mythology is, well, he is torn apart. Darkness tears light into 14 pieces. So the fact that there are 14 obelisks in Rome, today there are no longer 14 obelisks, there are fewer. Some were returned to Egypt, but most were relocated, and most of them are still here in the squares. And one of them was in the Circus of Nero. It's the one that's here in St. Peter's Square, where I was working, because obviously Nero killed a lot of martyrs, a lot of Christians, rather crazy emperor, and in commemoration in memory and in honor of all those who are buried underneath and who died as martyrs. Well, that's why this obelisk is in the center. So yesterday was very interesting, because yesterday was the feast of the Virgin of Lujan. It was the day of the Virgin of Lujan, May 8th. And the interesting thing about the Virgin of Lujan is that she was crowned as the Virgin of Lujan officially 138 years ago, yesterday, 138 years. A very interesting code, because today is the 137th day of the year. Now, I'm going to explain this. 138 years ago, the Virgin of Lujan was named by Pope Leo, I think, right? So clearly, he should choose the name Leo XIV in honor of the fact that it was the day of the Virgin. Well, there's a lot of symbolism regarding this, and well, he ends up being called Leo XIV, with all the symbolism of the 14 obelisks of Rome, of the lions that guard the eye of God in Piazza del Popolo. Well, the Sphinx, with all the information it guards in our city, in the eye of God and in the square, and something very symbolic, obviously, is that the Pope is North American, but also Peruvian, that is from the north and from the south. In other words, Francis opens the door to the south, but Nara with the key, and now someone from North America and South America are connecting in this new symbolism. I find it very interesting, because everything we've been talking about since Antarctica and all the messages I've been sharing, bringing how the birds from the south are telling those in the north to let the north know that it's time to carry out the new activation. Just like what happened in 2012 when I went to Antarctica, when they told me to turn the key of the Vatican so that the force from the north would go to the south. This time it was the opposite. Tibal tell those in the south to connect with those in the north, but in America. And this has been happening since the beginning of the year, right? In January, yes, if you go back to the previous stories, you'll see the progression of this. Suddenly having a pope who embodies the meaning of the eagle and the condor, right? From the United States and Peru. Peru being the spirit of Argentina, it's clearly like a consequence of Pope Francis. It's very symbolic. The fact that the eagle and the condor as energy are now inside the key, right? It's that north-south connection. Eagle, condor, the two eyes, that I've been talking about all the time, about the change in perception through the alignment of both eyes, no? So that you don't just look with one, but with both, north and south. It's very symbolic. Obviously for Peru, the condor is the symbol, and for the United States, the eagle is the symbol. So now the eagle and the condor are seated on Metatron's throne in the representation of Saint Peter. And that is a symbolism that undeniably represents all that information about the unification of the Americas, which is the doorway we need to open to achieve the transmutation from silver to lead to gold, which is that alchemy we've been talking about. So that symbolism of the philosopher's stone being anchored, here is what we've been working on while sitting in this space over the last 2 or 3 days, which is to align all the concepts of alchemy, all the elements of alchemy, especially the atoms of gold, in order to modify the perception of that connection between heaven, earth, spirit, and world, time, and space, creating bridges. The bridge, the rainbow bridge, which is the 12 bridges that need to be built in order to generate the anchoring of all those chemical elements that bring down the information. So yesterday in the other video I also explained what Pontiff, Supreme Pontiff means, which is the greatest bridge between heaven and earth. And that bridge is what we were building in America between the eagle and the condor, the bridge between the two eyes to create the third eye, the bridge between time and space to create the word, the bridge between heart and mind, spirit and matter. The rainbow bridge that connects all of this. And it was very symbolic that Pope Leo chose to speak about building bridges, always building bridges. So, well, a lot of symbolism, many things that I'll keep explaining as I remember them, but I wanted to anchor that information here, that up until the moment when the Pope came out onto the balcony and delivered his message, we were anchoring. I didn't move from my spot, from my from my place, and holding the frequency, holding that energy, and anchoring the alchemy. In other words, we were doing alchemical processes to specifically modify the concept of Pietra, which is Peter, so that alchemy is not done from a place of suffering and martyrdom, but rather that alchemy can be practiced from joy and happiness, right? A new concept. And to begin building, as the Pope said, bridges for peace, but not at a religious level, rather at a social level, and above all, from the self. So, in the coming years, with Pope Leo sitting here, we will be more connected than ever with the entire plane of consciousness of the whole world through the eyes, the balance of the eyes through the eagle and the condor. So a time of prophecy begins of uniting the eagle and the condor, precisely upon the philosopher's stone, at the key of the world. Thank you for being here.